There we go. All right. So we're going to look at what the four seasons are like in each of the different regions in our country. So desert regions, tropical regions, temperate regions, and polar regions. Okay. What are the four seasons like and what patterns do we see inside of those regions? That's what we're going to take a look at today. Okay. Today, specifically, we are going to focus on desert regions. Okay. So I'm going to ask you, if you would, to go to your seesaw. And on your seesaw, click on the activities light bulb to refresh your feed. All right, guys, I got something in my throat. And you will see an activity called Weather Patterns in the Desert Region. Weather patterns in the desert region. Okay. We're going to take a look at our learning goal. And our learning goal is to obtain and combine information to determine seasonal weather patterns across the different regions of the United States. So obtain means to collect or gather. So you guys are going to collect, and combine means put together. You're going to collect and put together information to determine seasonal weather patterns across the different regions of the United States. Okay. So we're going to look at that information and you guys are going to put it together to make a decision about the weather. With your teacher, we've reviewed the success criteria. We're going to look at slide 1. Then we're immediately going to go with a partner. You guys are going to read the questions and text on slides 2 through 7, and you're going to answer those questions in complete sentences using evidence from the text. And you'll also highlight your evidence. And then we'll come back together. Okay, so if you have not already, go ahead and click that add response button for me. All right, and here's that directions on slide 1. This is what you're getting ready to do. With your partner, you are going to read the questions and text on slides 2 through 7. You are going to answer the questions in a complete sentence using evidence from the text. And you are going to highlight your evidence. Okay, so on each slide, slide 2, slide 3, slide 4, slide 5, slide 6, and slide 7, you will see a question at the top, and you will see a passage that has that answer inside of it. Okay, so you're going to read these short texts and answer the questions that are up top. Okay, any questions on those directions before I get ready to send you to your groups? Any questions on what you're going to do? Okay, awesome. Let me get these groups set up for you. Okay, guys, welcome back. You should have a pretty thorough understanding of the seasons inside of the desert climate now. You had a good time with your partners. I enjoyed being able to check in and see your progress. I was able to see a lot of good learning happening. We're going to continue that learning now, okay? Let me share my screen up with you guys. So you guys have taken a look at a text uses words and photographs and text features to explain the weather inside of desert climates, okay? We know that it is hot in the day, it is cool in the nighttime. We know that in the spring, there are green plants that come to the desert. And this is because of the lower temperature as the desert is a bit farther from the sun. We also know that in the summer, as we would expect, it is super hot. Most animals sleep during the day to get away from that heat. In the fall, the desert is still hot and dry, and there is no more rain that is falling. Rain does tend to fall inside of those warmer seasons that lead up to the fall. And then we have in the winter that deserts get rain. I hope you found that as unusual. We don't really think about rain in deserts, but they do happen in the winter. And that's what helps those plants store up water for the hot seasons coming up. Okay. Now we're going to take a look at some data and charts. This says, with your teacher, look at the graphs and discuss their meanings. Use the information to type answers to the questions about the data on slide 9. Discuss the questions about the graphs on slide 10. So these are graphs about a city called Mojave, California. Okay, this is a city inside of California that does have deserts. All right, we're going to use this information about the temperature and the rainfall to answer these questions down here. Okay. Some things to notice, first of all, about these graphs are that on the left side, they have numbers. This graph, it says temperature. We start at 0 degrees and we move up to the top of the graph, which shows 120 degrees. We can see that our lowest temperature in our desert is here at 32 degrees, and that happens in January. Our highest temperature is over here on this red bar, which is 96 degrees, and that happens in July. So as we would expect, the winter is colder in the desert and it does get hotter. You will notice that right now in Indiana, it's -3 degrees. So even though it's colder in the desert, it's not as cold as temperate climates. Okay, it's just desert cold. So those numbers on the left show the temperature. Over here on this graph, it says rainfall. Okay, for rainfall, we see we start at 0 and we move up all the way up here to 1.2. Okay, 1.2 is how many inches of rainfall. So on an adult, this part of our finger, this little like middle section here, is about an inch. So 1.2 inches is just like that much rainfall. You guys know right now we have 11 inches, which is about the length of my arm, of snow on the ground right now. So to think about 1.2 inches is not a lot. So even though this graph makes it look like it's a lot of rain, we have to think about the number that's shown and understand that it's really not. That bar looks super tall, but it's because it's in comparison to having nothing. Okay. So these numbers on the side are what measure the data for us. Going across the bottom here, we see the names of months. So this is as the year progresses, January through December. It's the same here on the rainfall, January through December. So if you want to know what the weather is like in February, you would go to the February section. You would look straight above and you would see that in the desert, we have a low of 35 degrees and a high of 61 degrees in February. So right now in California, it's between those two temperatures. Also, we have a chance of rain in the desert in February. Our graph goes all the way up right here to 1.1. So we get about 1 inch of rain in the whole month of February. Again, we got 11 inches of snow in about 8 hours. So for a whole month, they only get 1 inch of rain. It's not a lot. Okay. Let's take a look at this section over here that shows what the months are in terms of seasons. So if you look over here, you'll see a key. From December through February, that's winter time. From March to May, that's the spring. From June to August is the summer. And from September to November is the autumn or the fall. Okay, so this is going to be helpful to us as we answer these questions here. Are there any questions about that data so far? Anything that we've looked at there? Questions so far? Okay. Awesome. All right, so let's continue on with these questions here. We're going to do these together. The first question says, which season has the coldest temperatures? Include evidence from the graph in your answer. So we're looking for the coldest temperatures. When we look for cold temperatures, we are looking for low numbers. Okay, so we're going to look for low numbers here on our temperature graph. Let's go see over here after I finish erasing this. There we go. Let me get rid of that because it says we want to include some evidence, so I don't want all the old evidence. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, awesome. Which season has the coldest temperature? Well, let's look down here. This is our lowest temperature. Grab your highlighter and highlight that 32 through 35. And then the same over here in December. Those months are December, January, and February. My evidence right here tells me that that's winter. The months of December, January, and February are winter. So which season has the coldest temperature? The winter. So we're going to add that in here. Which season has the coldest temperature? The winter.
Can you type it in the chat?
In 1 second, please. And our evidence is that it is 32 to 35 degrees. Okay.
Couldn't we put ID?
I don't know what ID means.
It stands for degrees.
ID, I don't think stands for degrees. That circle, that tiny circle stands for degrees. Okay. So right now we're working on that portion of our standard that says gather and collect data. Okay, so we are putting data together. We're getting ready to combine that data with information that we've learned about our seasons from our reading. Question 2 says, and I'm going to change my highlighter color so that I can clearly tell which piece of evidence I'm highlighting for which question. Compare temperatures in the spring and fall months. Include evidence from the graph in your answer. Okay, so over here I see the spring is March, April, and May. So I'm going to go look here for March, April, and May. Here we go. March, April, and May are right here in this little band. When it says look at the temperatures, I've got to look at the lows and the highs. You guys have heard this before, a low temperature of with highs of. That's because temperatures change throughout the day as the sun rises and falls. So from March through May, we can see temperatures of 39 degrees all the way up to temperatures of 79.9 degrees. So that's about a 40-degree range. Now it says to look at the fall. Down here we see that the fall are September, October, and November. So I'm going to come over here to September, do the same. It's at that 58.3. And I've got my September low and high, my October high and low, and my November low and high. And take a look at this. It's in about the same place as the low from the spring. Look at the lowest two right there. They're about the same. My highest temperature in the fall or the autumn is 88.9 degrees. So that's higher than my spring, but they're still pretty close. Look at how close those are to each other. So when we compare temperatures in the spring and fall months, we can see that the lows are the same and the highs are about 10 degrees off. So we're going to add that in this little section here. In the spring and fall, the lows are the same. The highs are hotter in the fall. I'll put that in that chat, so if you want to copy that in, you can get it done a little bit faster. I don't do this all the time. Here we go. Our final one asks, if you were to visit this city in the winter, what would you pack and explain why? So we can see in the winter, that's the temperatures that we talked about at first because we were looking at February, which is the month that we're in. So I can see that in the winter here, that is using December, January, and February. And it's pretty chilly. So it can get all the way down to 32 degrees and it gets all the way up to 57 degrees. So it's not warm, even though it's in the desert. So it's pretty chilly, especially at nighttime. And in the daytimes, it can get kind of warm. It's going to feel like a spring day here. So if I were to visit this city in the winter, I would pack a jacket, which is crazy to think about, right? We don't think about needing jackets in the desert, but we do during certain seasons. I would pack a jacket because it is cold at night. You could get more detailed and you could talk about other things that you would pack as well. Like perhaps you'd want to pack a pair of pants and a pair of sweatpants so that during the day you could just be in your standard pants and it wouldn't be as warm as at nighttime when you might need those sweatpants to keep you a little bit warmer. Okay. So we're going to get more and more practice at using these graphs and these charts. As we go on over the next few days, we're going to look at graphs and charts from different climate regions, but this is the information that you need to know for the desert region. On slide 10, we were asked to discuss the questions that are there. So we're going to briefly look at those before I explain to you your independent work. Slide 10 shows, if you'll look at the title of the graphs, information about the daylight hours. So how many hours of sun are there going to be? And something called the UV index, okay? The daylight hours, as you guys know, we have more sun during the summer, okay? In our temperate climate, it's still light outside at your bedtimes in the summer. In the winter, it's dark by like 6 o'clock when you're eating dinner. So that's what daylight hours means, is how many hours is there sun. So with that in mind, let's look here. according to this graph, why do you think it is warmest in May through July? So here's May through July, and I notice that those are the tallest points of daylight hours. So to me, it makes sense that these are the warmest because those are the days that have the most sunlight. And we know that the sun is warm. So the more sun that's out, the warmer it's going to be inside of that climate region. So in May through July, we see the longest days in the desert, which makes sense that those are also the hottest months. Questions about that? I can't see you guys, so I'm gonna stop sharing really quick. Any questions? Okay. All right, let's take a look at our next one. Our next one says the UV index. So the UV index right here is the strength of the sun. So it's how strong the sun is, okay? The UV index is why inside of a temperate region, you do not need to protect your skin from the sun with sunscreen and hats and longer sleeves, because you're not going to get burned by that sun inside of the winter, okay? You do need to protect yourself from the sun in those summer months. So it says here UV index. In Indiana, our brightest days don't get above 10. So this right here is Indiana. The desert definitely gets higher. Look here, it's higher than 10. How do you think the UV index affects life in the desert? So that sun is super, super, super strong, okay? My aunt actually lives in Arizona, which is not far from this area in California. And she said that if she's outside for 15 minutes, she can get a sunburn. Boom, 15 minutes like that. So how do you think the UV index affects life in the desert? The fact that the sun is so strong, what do you think that does to the plants and animals? What do you think? Christopher?
Kill them off.
It what?
Sometimes it burns the plant.
It does burn those plants. A lot of times you'll see dead brown plants in the desert during those hotter months, for sure. What else? How's it going to affect the animals? What do the animals have to do?
Get shelter.
Yep, they got to find shelter. A lot of times we've read that our animals in the desert are nocturnal, so they're going to be awake during the nighttime when that sun is not there. So our weather, I'm hoping you're seeing that our weather inside of climate regions majorly affects the plant and animal life that lives there, okay? All right, let's talk about your independent work before you go. Your independent work is on slides 11 through 13. On 11 are the directions. It says you're going to read the statements on slide 12. You're going to sort the statements into their matching season. A hint to you is to go back and read the text or look at the graphs if you're stuck. On slide 13, you're going to record yourself. This is a speaking grade. Record yourself explaining how a desert's climates are similar and different from Indiana's temperate seasons. Okay, so on slide 12, there are statements over here on the side. You're going to read them and decide, does that happen during the fall, the summer, the spring, or the winter? And you'll place those statements inside of each section, okay? On slide 13, you're going to explain how the seasons are the same and different in a desert from Indiana's seasons. That's your independent work for today.